Hello everyone. The Padomaic Isles is an in-development mod project aimed at recreating the islands of the Padomaic Ocean within the world of the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. The Padomaic Isles team operates as a sister project to Project Tamriel and Tamriel Rebuild, rather than being an official branch of them. This independent group of passionate Morrowind modders is currently making steady progress on various claims for these regions. With that in mind, let's explore the existing Elder Scrolls lore regarding the various territories found within the Padomaic Ocean. In the brief history of the Empire V3, we learn about the exploits of Uriel Septim V, the 17th Emperor of the Third Empire and the Septim Dynasty. Uriel V embarked on a series of invasions beginning almost from the moment he took the throne in 3E268. Uriel V conquered Roscrea in 271, Cathnoquey in 276, Yneslea in 279 and Esroniet in 284. In 3E288, he embarked on his most ambitious enterprise, the invasion of the continent kingdom of Akavir. This ultimately proved a failure, for 2 years later, Uriel Septim V was killed in Akavir on the battlefield of Yneslea. The Padomaic Isles project aims to bring to life the very territories once graced by the legendary Uriel Septim V. This ambitious modding project will incorporate the archipelagos of Esroniet, Yneslea, and Cathnoquey into its expansive worldspace. The team has also created a beautiful grid map and has shared it with the community. This archipelago is Cathnoquey, situated to the east of mainland Morrowind. Esroniet lies in the far east, while the land of Yneslea is located to the south. The upcoming Temaris expansion, the initial release, will center on the island of Temaris and its surrounding neighbors, Aliar, Serila, Eshkumelat, and the Lasalo archipelago. According to the claims map, this first phase includes the areas PI_main along with TI_2, TI_3, and TI_4. Now, there isn't much lore here, so I guess many of these names were invented by the Padomaic Isles team. What an incredible job the team has done just conceptualizing and building the game world. Looking at the Temaris group of islands, we can assume they are part of Cathnoquey. If you look at the factions, the red areas belong to the Empire, which includes the large city of Port Mare on the main island, and Blue Atoll, a village on a small island, and a fortress here called the Asylum of Moths. Are they talking about the ancestor moth priests? If yes, what are they doing here in the Padomaic? Interesting. As you can see, in the south we have another village, Eloisa, controlled by the Empire. We will visit this village as part of the first expansion. Now that you have an introduction to the project and the locations, let's shift our focus to the developer Q&A. Yes, the Padomaic Ocean development team kindly answered some of my questions. The questions were drafted to get an introduction to the project. We also discussed the lore, races, historical background, and politics of the region. I will work on another video in a few months focusing on the Temaris expansion, locations, factions, etc. Do add your questions in the comments. Alright, let's get started on the Q&A. Can you share the background about the Padomaic Isles project? When did your team start working on it, and what was the objective at the beginning? So the developer responds, Padomaic Isles began as a side project of Tamriel Rebuild in 2020, with a focus on creating Cathnoquey. After a couple of years of conceptualization and early literature/asset work, it was spun off into its own project for more focused implementation. The objective also became more defined and grew to include all of the Padomaic Ocean nations. Very cool. Can you talk about the historical background and cosmology of the Padomaic Isles region? The Padomaic Ocean is too vast to be held by any one power, but presently the Empire controls the main parts. In ancient times, many waves of migration passed over it, both east and west. While the first great empires of Tamriel failed to reach the Great Ocean, the Psyche of Akavir did not. and the long reach of their dragon riders was felt for many centuries. After the decline and retreat inward of the Saisci, the Isles enjoyed a period of independence, developing stable kingdoms that created great works. Cathnoquey, Yneslea, Esroniet were all conquered by the Empire of Tamriel during the conquests of Emperor Uriel V, roughly a century and a half before the events of Morrowind. Today, imperial authority wanes and the leash has begun to slip the further east one goes. Fascinating. It is interesting that the Saisci of Akawir were here in the Padomaic Isles. So I wonder if there are any Saisci families or NPCs that can be encountered here. That would be interesting. Also, I'm very interested to explore and find any remnants from the times of Uriel Septim V. That would be amazing, right? Wow. What a history. So the Padomaic Isles actually has some fantastic history, There's a lot of scope for great storytelling. Alright, let's move on to the next question. Who are the settlers who have established homes in these lands? The developer responds, the Padomaic Ocean encompasses 3 main archipelagos and a handful of smaller ones. The 3 largest are Cathnoquey, Yneslea and Esroniet from west to east. Cathnoquey, the closest to Tamriel, is a rocky, pleasant land of living magic inhabited by the Quey, a complex and mysterious people who count both men and elves among their number. So the men are Cathnoquey and the elves are Cathnoquey. The two populations function as parallel but connected civilizations, with the Cathnoquey living on the islands themselves and the seafaring Cathnoquey living on great flotilla cities on the seas. The origins of both people are shrouded in myth and ancient prehistory. Yneslea is a jungled and humid archipelago that lies far to the southeast of Cathnoquey. It is inhabited by the Yneslea, a race of men thought to be descended from the lost men of Akawir. Once enslaved by the Saisci, dragon riders of that continent, the Yneslea threw off their chains in ancient times and built a prosperous and powerful kingdom. Esroniet is the easternmost of the 3 great Padomaic archipelagos and the closest to Akawir. The wildest of the archipelagos, its misty mountainous interior allows its inhabitants, the Esri, to fight off snake folk of Akawir rather than be conquered like their Yneslea kin. Cathnoquey is a pleasant land, a fairly temperate environment. So Esroniet has misty mountains in the interior and looks like has a lot of high elevation zones. Yneslea has a hot and humid jungle environment. Once all of these lands are completed, we can experience multiple biomes here in the Padomaic Isles. Next question, are you creating new races for the project? The dev responds, the Cathnoquey and Cathnoquey, the native peoples of Cathnoquey, have been created already, as have the Yneslea, the native people of Yneslea. Some of them may be encountered on Tamriel in the Tamriel Rebuilt and Project Tamriel mods. The Saisci of Akawir have also been created. In the future, the Padomaic Isles intends to create the Esri, the inhabitants of Esroniet, as well as 2 new beast races, the Gorong, a race of canine-like people who live difficult lives on remote Padomaic atolls, and the Murin, a race of rat-like people who live aboard floating barrens much feared by the peoples of the Padomaic. In the future, the other races of Akawir may be made as well, likely starting with the seafaring Tangmo, the monkey folk. Yeah, we do know that Tangmo and the Cathnoquey, Cathnoquey are part of the Elder Scrolls lore. I'm not sure about Gorong and the rat people, Murin. Wonderful. Wow. New races. Okay, next question. What are the cultural differences between the Cathnoquey people and the Khmer of Quey? Okay, the dev responds. Origins of the Keptu, the men of Quey, are mysterious. They themselves do not provide many clues beyond vague hints that they too came from Tamriel in the distant past. Their imposing fortress and antiquated weaponry, typically built blunt or stylized to the point of being unrecognizable as instruments of war, are at odds with their unimpeachable hospitality and ready smiles. One detects in them a stalwartness, an anxiety, a preparedness for battle. Upon the waves of the Padomaic, there are no sailors more renowned than the Khmer of Quey, a remnant of the ancient and unaltered Khmer who made a great exodus out to sea. An enduring people known for their shrewdness and efficiency in all things, as well as their strange and esoteric traditions. Their sea-bound society has made them masters of trade, bringing the care and efficiency of sailing to the table of commerce. Okay, so essentially the Khmer of Quey are the original inhabitants of Rezdain. So they essentially migrated to the Padomaic Isles, and Azura's curse did not affect them, while it affected the other Khmer people who turned into Dunmer. Haha. Alright, next. I observed a document about the Quey language. Can you share the vision behind developing a new language? And will we listen to or read about the language in-game? The dev responds, one of our developers, Phoenix 12, has developed part of the Quey language. These efforts are reflected in place names, NPC names, and literature. Okay, regarding the political landscape of Temaris, can you clarify their status? Are they considered part of Cathnoquey, or do they function as sovereign states? So the dev responds, the borders of the Padomaic Ocean are not so clear-cut as those on land. The Temaris Isles lie near the great Cathnoquey archipelago and have traditionally been within the range of the great Quey flotilla cities and their outsailers. But there are no permanent Quey settlements on the Temaris Isles, only a handful of old ruins and a Quey diaspora reflected in the diverse population of the region. Okay, so we won't find the Quey flotilla cities in this release, the first release, but we will definitely meet the Quey people. Wonderful. Next, what is the extent of the Empire's involvement in the archipelago and what are its primary objectives there? Okay, the dev responds, the Imperial East Navy is the primary authority in the Temaris Isles. In practice, however, this authority does not meaningfully extend far beyond the largest island, Temaris proper. The other smaller islands of the archipelago are inhabited by smugglers, pirates, castaways, wildlife, and an infamously cunning Padomaic rock. The seas, meanwhile, are infested with dreg, who routinely challenge passing sailors. As the Empire turns inward in 3E427, the archipelagos of the Padomaic have become more wild and dangerous, and the Temaris Isles are no exception. Like, why can't the empires just, fudge off? Why are they here? Anyway, next question. Could you provide an update on the project's current status and any information regarding the release schedule? The project is currently developing its first release area, a small archipelago called Temaris Isles. Yeah, we spoke about that. This cluster of islands lies due south of Cathnoquey and will serve as an introduction to the far-flung lands and the disparate peoples of the vast Padomaic Ocean. Exterior work on the Temaris Isles area is roughly 80% complete, and the interior work is a little over halfway complete. The primary settlement of the release, Eloisa, is fully interior complete and NPC'd. What remains are primary wilderness areas and dungeons. Questing has begun, but is still in early stages. 2 quests have been implemented so far. Like Tamriel Rebuilt and Project Tamriel, with which Padomaic Isles shares a setting and asset repository, Padomaic Isles does not publish release schedules. This project has a smaller development team than its larger counterparts, and the development sometimes moves in bursts. However, the long-term plan is to produce 4 main releases of Padomaic Isles. The small Temaris Isles region will be the first as an introduction to the project and a modest first goal. Afterwards, the project intends to release Cathnoquey, Yneslea and Esroniet as single releases roughly comparable in sizes and scope of Tamriel Rebuild's Grasping Fortune release or Project Tamriel's Abyssian Shores release. Wonderful! Wow, I'm so excited! Temaris Isles. Exploring these remote islands will feel like actually taking a trip to the Pacific Ocean, like Bora Bora or some islands beyond Fiji. Alright guys, we have come to the end of the video. I want to extend my gratitude to the Padomaic Ocean developers for taking the time to respond to my inquiries and for providing the development build that allowed us to see this gameplay footage. Please share your opinions on the team's overall vision and the project itself in the comments. If you have further questions for the development team regarding the mod, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching. May the divines be with you.